Today we're going to dive into a crucial topic, one that's affecting every living thing on this planet: the impact of global warming on the oceans. You know, the ocean is like the beating heart of our planet.
Absolutely. And it's getting warmer, right?
You got it. Global warming is pumping up the temperature of our oceans, causing a whole cascade of issues. One of the most noticeable impacts is the bleaching of coral reefs.
Wait, why are they turning white?
It's like they're getting sunburned. Corals, you see, are super sensitive to temperature changes. When the water gets too hot, they expel these algae that live inside them. These algae are what give the corals their color, so when they're gone, the corals turn white.
So it's not just about the color, it's about the coral's health.
Exactly. This bleaching weakens the corals, making them more susceptible to disease and hindering their ability to support all that marine life.
That's a real domino effect, isn't it?
You bet. And it's not just the coral reefs. The rising ocean temperatures are also messing with marine food chains. Imagine fish being forced to move to cooler waters, like cod and herring.
Wow, that's a big shift.
It throws everything off balance. Species that depend on these fish for food are suddenly out of luck. It's like a big game of musical chairs, but with dire consequences for the losers.
And what about these dead zones you mentioned earlier? What's the story there?
Well, warmer waters can lead to harmful algal blooms, which suck all the oxygen out of the water, creating these areas where nothing can survive. It's like a toxic soup that wipes out marine life.
So the oceans are becoming less hospitable for life as we know it. This whole situation is incredibly alarming, but what about the impact on humans? Good point. The rising ocean temperatures are not just a problem for marine life. They're also causing sea levels to rise. The polar ice caps and glaciers are melting at an alarming rate, adding more water to the oceans. And that means more flooding, right?
Exactly. Coastal areas are getting flooded, and it's a huge threat to human populations and ecosystems along the shorelines. It's a vicious cycle, actually, because less ice means less sunlight gets reflected back into space, leading to even more heat being absorbed by the ocean.
That's a classic feedback loop, isn't it?
You got it. It's like a runaway train, but there's more. The rising sea levels are causing coastal erosion, making these areas even more vulnerable to storms and other extreme weather events.
It's like the oceans are throwing everything they've got at us.
And remember, these extreme weather events are becoming more frequent due to climate change. It's all connected.
So beyond the warming and the rising sea levels, there's the disruption of ocean currents. How does that play into all this?
You're on the right track. Ocean currents are driven by differences in water temperature and salinity. They act like a giant global conveyor belt, distributing heat around the planet. But as the oceans warm, these currents are getting messed up.
For example, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC, is a key current system that distributes heat across the planet. It's weakening, and that's a big deal. And what does that mean for us? It could lead to more intense storms, prolonged droughts, and shifts in rainfall patterns, impacting marine and terrestrial ecosystems, agriculture, and water resources. It's not just about the oceans. It's about our entire planet's health. You mentioned ocean acidification earlier. Could you explain that a bit more?
Absolutely. The ocean absorbs a huge amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Think of it as a giant carbon sink. But as CO2 levels keep increasing, more of it dissolves into the ocean, making it more acidic.
So it's like a double whammy. The ocean is absorbing all this heat and becoming more acidic at the same time. That's exactly right. And this acidification makes it hard for marine organisms, like shellfish and corals, to build their shells and skeletons. It's like their homes are getting dissolved. This sounds incredibly dangerous. If these organisms can't survive, it will have a ripple effect on the entire food web. You're absolutely right. It's a domino effect that starts with these crucial species and goes all the way up to the top of the food chain, impacting fish populations and the livelihoods of people who depend on the ocean. I see the big picture now. This isn't just an environmental issue. It's a social and economic one too.
You're spot on. Millions of people rely on healthy oceans for food, tourism, and coastal protection. As these impacts worsen, it's going to put a strain on communities worldwide.
It's a critical issue, and we need to act now. Thanks for shedding light on this important topic.